This video is brought to you by Brilliant. The general election is over. Parliament has MPs again. The government is formed. For many parties, their next job is to figure out exactly how they want to operate in Parliament, who should be in what position within the party, which causes they want to champion, and exactly how they want to influence the government. For the Conservatives, though, they have an even more immediate concern: who will lead them through this period of opposition? So in this video, we're going to have a look at exactly how the Tories are set to choose their leader, the key dates, and who appears to be in the best position to actually win it. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. Now, being in opposition is no easy task, especially if you've just come from governing. Unlike the Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition gets very little media attention. They're not taken as seriously on policy matters, and their actions are usually summed up by the press as simply opposing the government for opposition's sake, or for simply agreeing with the government. Adapting to the lack of power and the lack of attention can be tough, and can make some parties impatient for another election, and often a new leader. In the case of the Tories, there were some arguments that a shorter leadership election would be preferable. Part of this was probably impatience, but part of it was probably also a desire to maintain whatever party unity survived the general election campaign. Longer leadership elections allow candidates to attack each other publicly for longer, making it difficult for the party to come back together afterwards. However, there were also some problems with a shorter leadership election, which led some to argue for a longer one. Shorter leadership elections push the party to act impulsively, with those voting not having the time to properly weigh up their options. We saw this with the 2022 leadership election, in which the final two candidates were selected in roughly only a week. This helped the frontrunners, which included Liz Truss, reach the final two, as other candidates simply didn't have the time to build momentum. Now, the exact details of any leadership election are determined by the 1922 committee, as stipulated in the Conservative Party's constitution. For our international viewers, the 1922 committee is the name given to the group of backbench Conservative MPs. Up until the general election this year, the 1922 committee was led by Sir Graham Brady, who during his tenure helped to steer the party through all kinds of crises. With him stepping down as an MP at this year's election, though, a new 1922 committee chairman was needed. As such, the 1922 committee organised a leadership election, firstly for themselves, on the understanding that the winner would determine the overall terms of the party's leadership election. Only two candidates stood for the position: Bob Blackman and Geoffrey Clinton Brown. After a somewhat messy election in which members of the 22 committee complained that the voting ended earlier than they originally planned, meaning that they were unable to cast their own vote, Bob Blackman came out victorious. After a lot of debate in the party, Blackman came to the conclusion that a longer election was preferable. As we outlined earlier, this should force his colleagues to think carefully about their decision. The rough outline of the leadership election is as follows. In order to be nominated, a candidate needs the backing of 10 of their colleagues. The deadline for nominations was on Monday, the 29th of July at 2:30 p.m. Any candidate that met this threshold now has the month of August to try and convince their colleagues that they should lead the party. Then, between the 4th and the 11th of September, Tory MPs will whittle down the number of candidates to 4, who will then use the Conservative Party conference to lay out their stall and explain to both Tory MPs and the wider membership why they believe that they should be entrusted with the party leadership. Following the conference, between the 9th and 10th of October, Tory MPs will whittle down the candidate list even further to just 2. At this point, the membership vote will open, and for the rest of October, members will be eligible to cast their vote. The ballot will close on the 31st of October, and the new leader will be announced on the 2nd of November. So, now we understand how the leadership election works, let's move on and have a look at which MPs have been successful in reaching the 10 required nominations. In total, 6 candidates have made their way through the first round. The first of these was James Cleverly, the former Foreign Secretary and current Shadow Home Secretary. Of the declared candidates, Cleverly might well be the most difficult to pin down politically. Generally, he appears to be relatively moderate, and has been praised by his colleagues and by civil servants for being a safe pair of hands as a minister. He also has a background in the Territorial Army, something that will certainly help him with a section of the Tory party membership. However, he may struggle in the leadership election as he hasn't really established a wider political vision. The next MP to make it through was Tom Tugendhat. Like Cleverly, Tugendhat also has a background in the military, serving in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Unlike Cleverly though, he hasn't yet served in the cabinet or shadow cabinet. Tugendhat currently serves as Shadow Security Minister. After Tugendhat came Robert Jenrick. Unlike Tugendhat and Cleverly, Jenrick is someone associated with the right of the party, and someone who would like to see the party move further right on immigration. He's already discussed a potential move to the right under his leadership, with him saying that, to have any path back to government, we must win back those voters we have lost, across the board, but particularly to reform. Following Jenrick was Mel Stride, probably the least well known of the declared candidates. Stride is a former Work and Pension Secretary and a close ally of Rishi Sunak. In fact, he was trusted to do a lot of the media interviews during the election campaign. Like Cleverly, he's seen as a safe pair of hands among the party, but ideologically he's quite tricky to pin down. He's argued against what he described as ideological labels when asked about a potential rightward shift, although he did add that he wants the Tory party to have that of a one-nation tradition. After Mel Stride was Priti Patel, a former Home Secretary and someone seen as on the right of the Tory party. She's regularly argued in favour of stricter controls on immigration, and certainly has something of a following among the right of the party. Last to declare was Kemi Badenoch, another figure of the right and current favourite to win the overall Tory leadership election. She's also consistently pushed for further restrictions on immigration and is very popular among the base, something that's helped to put her into pole position. With such a long leadership contest on the horizon though, anything could happen. Be sure to keep an eye on this story as it evolves, as much like every area of our lives, this is likely to progress quickly. In fact, if you're feeling left behind by the news cycle and fast developments in AI and tech, you'll want to check out Brilliant. Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data analysis, programming, and AI. Learning a little every day is one of the most important things you can do, both for personal and professional growth. Brilliant helps you build real knowledge in minutes a day, with fun lessons you can do whenever you have time. It's the opposite of mindless scrolling and truly helps you to learn quickly, kind of like TLDR. One course I've found to be particularly interesting was their course on large language models. We hear a lot about AI and large language models in the news, but Brilliant helped me actually get hands-on with real language models as you explore how they build vocabulary, choose their next word, and more. They also helped me grasp the importance of training data by comparing models trained on Taylor Swift lyrics to models trained on a cookbook or big text terms and conditions. If you want to learn more and understand the world around you better, whether that's in order to get a job in AI or just to understand what everyone's talking about, you can try everything that Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days. Visit brilliant.org/TLDR or click on the link in the description. Plus, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thanks for watching and to Brilliant for sponsoring this video.